feels. Got me and my feelings like Hey you, how's it going? Welcome to One to Set. This is Alia over here. We are going to do a new kind of mini series and it's called In My Feels. Yes, got me and my feelings like okay, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry. I apologize for my wrongful behavior. Anyway, this whole section, this new mini series that we have here is to explore the world of K-pop in a different way than how we usually do. We're still kind of reacting to things, but then it's more of the emotional attachment or the emotional senses that we kind of have when we're listening to music, and kind of from a lyrical point of view as well, to a bit of the musical arrangement, if I know anything about musical arrangement, which honey I don't, but that's not what this mini series is about. This is about a normal ass person like me, and hopefully you're a normal ass person on the other side, and we're both going to kind of talk about how we feel when we listen to certain kinds of music. So for the first installment of this mini series, we are going to explore my boy RM's album Mono. So before we dive into the first music on the track list, I think we first have to discuss about the album itself as a whole, just to kind of set the whole scene. You know, what is this whole album about? What is this whole mixtape, as you say in the K-pop world, what is it about? And first, let's just look at the album title itself. So it's called Mono, and yes, you feel it, right? Like the first thing that came up in my mind is that disease where you get from kissing people. Please tell me I'm not the only one. Comment down below and tell me, girl, you're not the only one. I thought that too. Jokes. But when I first heard of Mono, I was like, okay, that means that it's just one. It means one, like how we know it in English. It also gives you the idea of singularity. Reference to BTS songs. The whole idea of singularity, him on his own, him as a solo act, and this is also a solo album. Maybe this means that it's RM outside of BTS, or like another dimension of what RM is or who RM is. I think it's very interesting that the album title itself says mono with like a dot period at the end, which also highlights or kind of emphasizes the fact that it's singular. Like that lonely dot is not an ellipsis where there's 3 dots, it's just 1 dot, kind of emphasizing on the fact that it's solo. I am gonna overanalyze the crap out of this. Yes, please judge me all you want, but I'm gonna overanalyze this, and maybe RM didn't even want me to overanalyze it, but you know what, this is my reception of the album, so I'm sorry, I will overanalyze this. Okay, so if you look at the album cover itself, it feels like it's very intentional. It's also monochromatic. It's like a white, but kind of like a dirty white background. At the top right hand corner, you'll see that he writes mixtape, and then he kind of scratches off it, and then he says that it's called RM playlist. I think it's very interesting that he did that, because one, I think the scratch kind of shows that it's like a draft, or it's like a work in progress. I feel like he alludes to the fact that he is a work in progress. I mean, I think when we come and explore the whole album, you kind of understand like what he means by that, or what I think he means by that. Sorry, you'll be like, ah, boo boo, that's not what he means. But this boo boo feels that is what he means. But it feels a bit more personal. I feel like when he says RM playlist, it feels like the songs are like little thoughts that are in his head, and it's a playlist that he plays in his head. And I think if we were to explore the songs one by one, you can kind of like see the cohesiveness between all the songs. I feel like even the song arrangements within the track list is also intentional. But we will get into that later. You know, be patient, subscribe down below if you want to know more about what this random normal person thinks about all of this. So that's the album cover. Let's go into the first song on the track list, called Tokyo. Alright guys, let's just get into the song. So the song starts with sounds of the street, which kind of sets the whole scene of like him being in public. And then there's that beautiful piano coming in with the sound of like trains and the streets. Just to let you know, apparently Tokyo in Korean means longing. I think even as you start listening to this, you can kind of feel that in the melody of the song.
Wake up in Tokyo, feel like a torso. I know it's time to go. I see Pinocchio wearing a poncho. That's me some time ago. Do I miss myself? Do I miss your face? I don't know. I don't know.
I think the first verse talks a lot about kind of feeling detached from himself. He also used Tokyo, kind of giving the effect that it's foreign to him. He also sings in English, making you feel a lot more like this whole situation is kind of foreign and detached to him. I think that was very interesting. Another thing that I want to highlight on this verse is also the fact that he used Pinocchio as a reference, and Pinocchio wearing a poncho. A huge theme throughout this whole album is it's just rain. I mean, I know it sounds really weird, but I think there's a lot of complexities with what rain is. I think you can interpret rain as something very negative or something even very positive, because rain brings harvest. You know, for Patty Feels, the Asian girl with her rice. Or, you know, you can also interpret it as rain giving you this like depressive, gray, sad mood. He, interestingly enough, a reference to Pinocchio, which is a famous children's tale, as we all know. And Pinocchio itself has this longing to be a boy, and also he was a bit dishonest, and therefore his nose kind of grew. And I think he talks, when he put those two together, like Pinocchio wearing a poncho, it's him kind of personalizing that whole experience of Pinocchio, or like him relating to Pinocchio, where perhaps he wasn't always his truest self, or that he felt like sometimes he was an imposter, or maybe that he was kind of lying to people. And I think the next few lines kind of goes on with like, do I miss myself? Do I miss your face? And he's kind of like not sure about it. He feels very ambivalent, because it does not necessarily feel like a bad thing to him being this Pinocchio character. All right. I love this like, oh, that really builds up to that yearning feeling, that longing, the whole vibe that he wants you to kind of feel as you listen to this song. Man, this song really actually gets me.
Life is a word,
Gets me in the feels.
sometimes you cannot say. And ash is a thing that someday we all should pay. When tomorrow comes, how different it's gonna be. What do love and hate sound just the same to me?
That part, that is probably my favorite part. That particular layer that he puts with the it really adds on to that whole longing, yearning, but also feeling detached. It's really interesting how like some musical elements can really create that emotion within you as you listen to it. I'm just gonna say this before I continue on with the video. If you feel triggered easily by talking about depression or talking about life and death, I think I suggest you click away, because I think this is kind of where I will personally bring this song towards. And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, please just exit from this video. I really don't want you to feel that way. If you do, But if you still want to carry on and you still want to like interpret this with me, I'm just gonna go ahead. The second verse is very interesting. It talks a lot about the struggle or like the weight of living. Hashtag if you know that song from Bastille, I love you. It talks a lot about that way of living and that whole idea of whether you're born to live or you're born to die. I think that's a huge theme as well in this whole album. It's kind of that struggle of keeping yourself alive, because sometimes you just kind of lose your motivation to keep on going. I think since he wrote in English, I think I'm gonna like pick out some of the word choices that he uses in this verse. He says ash is a thing that someday we all should be. So the word should instead of would, I think it's very interesting. It kind of gives you an idea that there's a certain element of not excitement, but like kind of looking forward to the fact that at the end of the day, this is all going to end, or that whole idea of like we were born to die, that kind of thing. And then if we move on to like the following lines, another big theme that he has is this whole idea of not only like duality but also ambivalence. He constantly has like mixed feelings between like yes and no, good and bad. Also, when you talk about mono, like monochromatic, you always think about colors being like black or white, that kind of that whole kind of idea of like two opposing forces. So if you go further along with like the tracks, you kind of realize that he likes to juxtapose, and I think that's overall like RM style as well, where he loves like having puns. He plays a lot with words, and he also juxtaposes two opposing ideas. And so he says like, why do love and hate sound just the same to me? So after a while, with all these mixed feelings, it's kind of hard to differentiate everything, and it's kind of all mushed together for him. I think that's kind of the feel. He talks a lot about like not looking forward for tomorrow. I think everyone kind of does struggle with this to either small or large extent. I definitely do, to a very, very large extent. I struggle with this always, but you know, I think everyone can kind of relate to this, even though it seems a bit dark. But I think the reality is that we kind of all have a dark side. All right, let's move on.
I just wanna stop right next to you. If I could choose one train, I just wanna stop right next to you.
I love the yearning part. This is probably the best part. And when all the music ends, all you hear is this whistling, which really adds on to that mono effect, the whole being alone. Yeah, I love it. It's really impactful, and I think it was really clever of him and them, I guess, because it's not just him alone, right? So them kind of putting that in, that's really cool. So the final ending to it, the last few lines is him saying all the things here, and I guess it's like, it's really interesting because he sets it in Tokyo, but I feel like Tokyo is, it's not actual Tokyo. I think Tokyo is obviously like a part of him, and he feels like he's detached from, I guess, certain parts of his personality. And then so thinking about like feeling homesick, meaning maybe you miss your better days, or like you that kind of held things a lot better. It's what I'm thinking, because I know he talks about like stay right next to you, I just want to stay right next to you. It seems like he's talking to another person, and you know, it might as well be another person that he finds comfort from. But if I'm thinking about like this whole idea of like Mano, it feels like he's probably talking to himself, and that this whole other person that he kind of misses and wants is a him that's a lot happier. You know, like, because obviously you have like your good days or your bad days, and sometimes I think when your bad days are like recurring or it's way more often, like the frequency has increased, you will start missing that part of you that you feel like you've lost it, and that you're kind of like yearning for, longing for, and you feel a little bit, you know, homesick in a way. So I mean, honestly, like Tokyo really hit hard, and it's also probably easier for me to like really get into Tokyo because it's in a language that I comprehend fairly easily. Okay, so I think that's it for my interpretation of what Tokyo is. Let me know what you think about Tokyo and kind of how you felt listening to Tokyo. The thing about the first song, Tokyo, is that it really sets the scene for the whole album. It kind of lets you know where is the starting point of like how he was feeling. Like, to me personally, I felt like I was kind of going through the playlist of like RM's head and thoughts, and I think Tokyo really sets the scene for that. The first, I guess, emotion, I think, to sum it out, is detached for Tokyo. I don't know why I'm smiling, guys. I'm really curious to know what you think of this song and how you interpreted it. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, or maybe you could just DM me if you're my close friend. I'll see you for our next video. Thank you so much. I love you, and I see you. Bye. 안녕.